Okay, it's 8 o'clock, so welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out in this rain. I was really expecting an empty Gompa this evening. It was pretty wild, and that wind earlier today. I'm just surprised you're out here. Good on you. And thank you. So before we get down to it, I just wanted to find out if anybody wanted to talk about any experiences they had with meditating every day or any obstacles that they may have encountered. I must admit I didn't meditate every day. One morning I didn't, and then I just forgot completely. I thought, oh, I'll do it in the evening, and I just forgot completely once I turned the telly on. The other thing was that, what else did I think about with the meditation? Oh yeah, this morning I meditated first thing, and I was only going to do a 3-minute meditation from the 3-minute mindfulness, whatever it is, the app, 3-minute meditation. But once I sat down and got comfy, I actually meditated for about 15 minutes, so that was a revelation for me. So if I do it every day, and I know I'm just going to, even if I roll my eyes and think, oh, I better do it, I said to the class I'd do it. So I sat down, and when I started, then I really got into it, so that, for what it's worth. Welcome. Actually, I'm always late for everything, so I probably really should have waited a few minutes for people. Okay, so glasses. Okay. So tonight we're going to look at the idea of projection and how the mind of attachment misinterprets things. But we've done 2 weeks, so I'll do a little bit of a recap. So the first week we said attachment is a deluded mind, where we exaggerate the good qualities and minimise the negative of things we like, which makes them more appealing than they really are. And any happiness we get is transitory. It's a never-ending chase. I remember talking about the Tim Tams, never-ending, wanting to have more and more and more and more, and not really being satisfied. So for a deep, satisfying and lasting happiness, that's not where we go. Attachment isn't the answer. We look inward, really, not externally. Last week, I looked at being attached to our self-image and being attached to the things that support it. And I didn't think of using social media as a good example to see how people build up their own self-image and how easily they can be attached to the things that help achieve that. We also briefly looked into being attached to outcomes. And one example with social media is attachment to positive reactions on social media, on Insta or whatever, where likes are needed constantly. But the one thing I can't believe that last week I didn't mention as an example, I didn't bring up football. Usually I do that at my own peril when I start talking to people about my theories about attachment and football. But I am going to bring it up, because I think it really does illustrate attachment to outcomes, and I don't think there's any denying that. I mean, even long-time Buddhists who have grown up in Melbourne have difficulty with this one. All right, anyway. So, problem to being attached with outcomes of your team's footy match. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
It's just a game.
Yes, it's just a game. Exactly right. When my mum first came to this country as a Latvian refugee, she thought she was seeing a footy match, soccer, and she's seeing this other thing. But yeah, it's just a game. Okay, so the footy fans that I know, the avid ones, in fact, my partner, I didn't really realise until many years later he was a Collingwood fan. I come home and he's yelling at the television, and I thought, who is this person? And then what's worse than that is, as a fickle fan, when they started winning, he started following them again. And I just thought that's something you do really need to declare before you enter into a relationship, because it's such a big thing and it affects people's behaviours. It really does. I can't talk to him if Collingwood loses. They lost the other day. 10 minutes, I can't say a word, and then it's okay, right? But it's an issue. Okay, but he has some rationalisations, which I'll get into later. So I think that avid footy fans, their happiness is directly linked to their team winning, even though they know that the team won't always win. I thought that's a little strange. When their team loses, they're in a bad mood, so they're suffering. And sometimes others around them suffer too. Another thing is that happiness, for the footy fans, is finally winning the grand final. But that's so transitory. I mean, how often does that happen in your lifetime? I think St Kilda have only ever won one grand final. Someone told me that the other day, I don't know if it's true. I know a monk in Bendigo who barracks for St Kilda, but I also know that he doesn't rely on his team winning to be happy. Also, Collingwood won the grand final, as we all know, last year. Was that a clap for Collingwood? Yeah, it was a thrilling game. It really was. And fans were so happy with the outcome. But they're not as happy this year. Because if you don't follow football, they are losing quite a bit. And I think they're out of the 8. So, I'll talk a little bit more about footy later, but I think, yeah, you can understand the principle, the idea of being attached to the outcome of winning and being upset when that doesn't go your way. So this is a little different to outcomes, but this whole talk about football brings me back to that quote by Eckhart Tolle that I quoted last week about attachment to things dropping away when you no longer seek to find yourself in them. So we won, we played, fantastic today, or we played crap today. So we're sort of identifying with the team. So his theory is attachment to your team will drop away when you no longer find your identity in the team, or with anything really, with your car, if your identity is with the car. Once it's not there, then you won't be attached to the car so much. But that obviously is really hard to do. I mean, this is all theory, blah, 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 but in practice it's really hard to do. Because all the social media, I mean, I've interviewed social media people for some of the teams, and it's all about behind the scenes, engaging the fans, making them feel like they're part of a tribe. That used to be the lingo, I don't know what it is now. And even traditional marketing, the strategies are designed to make you feel like you're part of the tribe, the community, and not to mention your parents drumming it into you when you're a kid. I mean, you've really got no hope. But I was just lucky my dad was obsessed with skiing every weekend rather than looking at a footy match. But it's like we said in the first week, you can still enjoy the game, you can still enjoy things that you're attached to. Enjoy the game, enjoy the spectacle, the strategy, the skills on the field. You can appreciate all of that. And it's beautiful to watch sometimes. And appreciate the history and culture of your club. Just understand what's going on and don't expect to find lasting happiness following the footy. It's clear that only one team finds happiness at the end of the year, or the fans of one team. Okay, enough of footy. There's a friend of Lama Zopa's, another Buddhist monk, who has a great Instagram account, by the way. He's called Mingyur Rinpoche, like Ming, M-I-N-G-U-R, Rinpoche, and he has these fantastic little snippets on all sorts of things, and he's very engaging. He's wonderful. So Mingyur Rinpoche, he talks about, this is interesting, he talks about closing one eye and looking at your thumb from afar, and bringing it slowly towards your open eye, closer, 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 closer. And then that is, he says, what does he say? He goes, now your whole world becomes your thumb. So he's saying that that's all you see. One-eyed fan. And that's all you see, right? So I guess he's talking about perspective. Well, actually, he says that's the attachment, making something small bigger and bigger, making a mountain out of a molehill, basically. So, he also suggests sitting down and feeling the sensations brought up by your attachment. He reckons doing this every day will liberate the attachment. Now, I do have two meditations to do, but I just thought I'd last minute, as I was looking over this tonight, I thought we might just do a quick one, a meditation on feelings, just so you get the idea of what he means by sitting with your feeling. It's like when people meditate and they get pain in the knee, and sometimes they say to focus on the knee and then the pain will dissipate. So I think this is much the idea with this. So this won't take long, but just let's explore this idea with feelings to an attachment. So again, just sit up straight and half close or close your eyes. And then just take a deep breath. To me, that always signals the start of a meditation. For me, I just sort of release everything. Okay, now think of something or someone you attach to. It could be some expensive earrings you saw yesterday, a new car you saw on TV, or a person you've been admiring from afar. So once you've got that object in your mind, keep thinking about it. Do any sensations or feelings come up? Don't overthink it. I mean, how do you feel when you think of the object of your attachment? Just sit with that feeling. If your mind wanders, just bring it back to the object of attachment. Don't judge whether your feeling is good or bad. Just feel it, sit with it. Okay, just open your eyes when you're ready. I don't know how that would have worked for anyone. I know that I've done this a couple of times in the past when I've been really upset. I'd just go to the cushion and I'd sit on the cushion and I'd really try to feel the feeling, and then in the end it does tend to dissipate a little bit. So it depends on what object you thought about, or person or thing. To see how well that worked. And sometimes it's hard for people to find that feeling. But I think if you do it often enough, you will. And especially if you're angry, when you're angry, that's a real easy feeling. If you're angry about something, just sit down and maybe really feel it. And hopefully it'll dissipate. I mean, there are better strategies, but that was just like an example. Okay. It might be a good one to do before your team's match this weekend. You got all those feelings stirring before a match, or even after maybe. Okay, we're finished with attachment to outcomes, and next we'll look at projections. But first we'll do a longer meditation, so that was just a tinsy one. So this will be a meditation on wishing happiness for ourselves and wishing happiness for others. And I think it was last week or the first week, I spoke about Bob Sharple's strategy of wishing people well. Like, may you be happy, may you be happy, may you be happy, to yourself silently when you see people on the street. And that counteracts just thinking about yourself all the time, which is what our minds tend to do. So I found a meditation that sort of does this, or does do this, from the Smiling Mind meditation app that I use. And Smiling Mind is an Australian organisation, and it's more interested in preventative mental health, but it does have a lot of fantastic meditations. Okay, so stop thinking about everything you were doing today and settle it right into this moment, right here, right now. So again, adjust your posture. So make sure you're comfortable, because this will be It won't be as short as the previous meditation. So, of course, the straight back, because that's the important thing, clear the channels. And your hands resting in your lap, right over left with the thumb tips gently touching, and close or half close your eyes. So we'll start with just breathing to settle the mind. When we rest our mind on the breath, it produces awareness, which helps with creating insight. So just take some long, slow, deep breaths, just quietly, and count them if it helps. Okay, now we're settled, we will begin. So readjust your posture if you need to. So, wishing happiness for others is good, but wishing happiness for ourselves is also important. We often spend a lot of time thinking about other people, wondering how they feel, and wondering what they would like us to do, or how they would like us to be. It's definitely good to think about others, but it's also important to make time for ourselves. We need to be in a good place so we can better help others. That's why this branch of Buddhism talks about getting enlightened, because when you're enlightened, that is the optimal way to help others. So this constant comparing ourselves to others or wanting to fulfil their expectations can lead to a lot of negative self-judgment. We can learn to let go of negative self-judgment every now and then by sending ourselves friendly wishes. So you are now going to send yourself some friendly wishes. But first, bring to mind someone that you care about very deeply. This could be a family member, a close friend, or a pet. Imagine them sitting there with you and really allow yourself to feel happy, safe and loved in their presence. Now, send yourself that same kind of love and happiness that you feel for this person or pet. And make a friendly wish for yourself, any wish you like, or even just the feeling. Send yourself that feeling and of love and happiness. So sending yourself friendly wishes could be saying to yourself, may I be happy, or may I be healthy, or may I be surrounded by people who love me and the people I love, or anything positive you want to wish yourself. You don't have to stick to these phrases. Your friendly wish can be anything you want it to be. It can even be, as I said before, just that feeling of being loved and happy. So just keep doing that, keep sending yourself your friendly wishes or your friendly vibe. Now we'll send some friendly wishes to other people. Again, bring to mind someone you care about very deeply. It could be the same person or the same pet. So imagine them sitting here with you and really allow yourself to feel happy and safe in their presence. Really look at them sitting in front of you in your mind's eye. While you look at them, imagine sincerely saying to them, "May you be happy. May you be healthy and safe. May you be with people who love you." Again, you don't have to stick to those phrases. It can be anything you would like to send them. Now think of someone you don't really get along with. Imagine sincerely saying to them the same sort of things. May you be happy. May you be healthy and safe. May you be with the people who love you. When you're ready, bring your awareness back to the room. Feel yourself sitting in the chair or on the floor. And then when you're ready, open your eyes. Any comments or feelings that you had about that? I remember being upset with someone once and I didn't really want to confront them. So I mentally sent them some nice wishes and I had a little conversation in my mind just how I'd like it to go down without any emotion or upset. But the next time I saw them, they were very sweet to me. But I think that's because after sending them nice wishes, I didn't feel that badly towards them. And this probably showed when we met next because my vibe had changed. And then when I saw them, they probably on some level realised I wasn't upset with them and I was a bit more approachable. So they probably felt more comfortable with seeing me. Okay, so now, as promised, finally, we're going to look into what's behind our attachment to things. So last month, if you were here, Jeremy spoke about deceptive appearances, when things appear differently to the way they really exist. And attachment is very much a part of that. So Lama Zopa says, everything is projected. We become attached to something that our mind has created. So the point is that there is nothing to be attached to. That's basically it. We can all go home now. But let's get a little deeper into those projections. I'm serious, that's pretty much the nub of it. Okay, I'll probably be repeating myself a little, quoting from different teachers, because the key to learning is repetition. I used to be a teacher, and admittedly I did that with math squiggles on the board, but I think the principle still stands. So our views of others are projections. The images of them that we have in our heads are ours, formed through our likes and our dislikes and our experiences with them, all of which has nothing to do with the people that we're projecting onto. Now, for me, I try to think of an example for me. Now, I really like Al Pacino. He's an amazing actor. He wears stylish clothes, and I think he's a great guy. But moreover, he was nice to me when we were in a lift together in LA. So I feel positively towards him. And I'm projecting a hugely positive image onto him. But what would I know? I mean, what would I really know about him? Just a fleeting 2 minutes or whatever, a little conversation. He was nice. I love his movies. He's so talented. So I'm making this big image, this big story about him. So I'm projecting a lot of stuff onto him that's not him. So my mistaken view, or our mistaken views, our delusions, can lead to attachment. So what are the sources of our delusions? My attachment was running around the hotel trying to find him again. But anyway, which I didn't. But I found a lot of other things. It was a lot of shooting was going, a lot of film shooting was going on in that particular hotel, so I found something else. Anyway, so thinking that things exist independently of the mind. Okay, sorry, that doesn't make sense. So I did ask before I went on a tangent, what are the sources of our delusions? So one is thinking that things exist independently of our mind. Things are created by our mind, they're not independent of our mind. And not understanding that things are largely constructed by the mind. I mean, not from you, I haven't created this with my mind, or I haven't created you or you with my mind, but I can create a story on top of that, and that's the projection. I can't see. Oh, that's a Buddha t-shirt. I thought if it was a Carlton t-shirt or something, I'd have something to say. Actually, I wouldn't, because I don't really care about football, but I thought I'd stick with the theme. Okay. So with our mind, we paint a mistaken picture on an object, an attachment or aversion, in the case of the footy teams, so attachment or aversion to another team, that follows. Okay. Now there's a Tibetan Buddhist scholar and author, Dr. Alex Berzingsh, that says this misconception and our unawareness that the object does not correspond to reality, that's the basis of us exaggerating positive qualities. So basically we're blithely unaware that our projections on an object are not real. And because they're not real, we start to get attached to them. If I'm projecting something on some poor guy down the street, how wonderful he is, and I get attached to him, you know, there's nothing there to be attached to. So these mistaken projections are the basis of our exaggerations. For example, we find a person good looking. We build up an interesting story around them by exaggerating their good qualities and maybe adding more positive qualities. They laughed at my joke. They must have a good sense of humour as well. We're basically adding stuff and painting an unrealistic picture. But the problem is, in addition to exaggerating positive qualities, is that we tend to think of these qualities as concrete, as permanent, as never changing. So we exaggerate the qualities, and secondly, we think that they're permanent. They may be good looking, charming and witty, so we expect them to always be good looking, charming and witty. I think we spoke about in the first week that it's a bit unfair to have all these expectations on people. But that's incorrect, because their mood is constantly changing, their body is constantly changing, Their emotional state is constantly changing. Geshe Doga says, first, the mind makes up these fantasies, then it believes in the truth of its own projections. These projections, even though they are fictitious, nonetheless do disturb the mind. He goes on to say, if we find that our mind starts to fantasise about the qualities of an object, we have to put a stop to that line of thinking. If we don't, our mind will become overwhelmed with desire for it. Now, I was thinking about that today. A partner actually asked me, so how do you do that? How do you put a stop to that line of thinking? For me, it's like a bit of a hint if you're getting over-emotional about something, and then you sort of start getting a bit dramatic, then you can just sort of catch yourself and think, okay, I'm going a bit overboard here. Okay, so you can put a stop to that line of thinking when you've got the fantasies. Okay, we've created the fantasy, and as Lama Zopa says, there's nothing to be attached to. But it is so easy to believe the story that we've created around an object or a person. It really does appear real. Hence the term deceptive appearances. So once we stop believing in these deceptive appearances, the disturbing emotions will no longer arise because we realise that it's a fantasy. So we become liberated from the delusions. We don't believe that our projections refer to anything real, so we're not fooled by them. For example, when we watch a film, we know it's just a film and we're not fooled by it. Okay, but that's out there, right? We can see it, it's not in our head. We can just suspend disbelief in the film, for the film, but ultimately we know it's just make-believe. It's something that has never existed at all. So Dr. Bezing, that I mentioned before, the Tibetan scholar, he says that we project all sorts of things that are pure fantasy. We believe that we believe that they are the reality, the stuff that we project. We believe that that is real. And then we respond to these projections in inappropriate ways. And he gives a little example here. He tells a little story to illustrate that. For instance, when a loved one that we are attached to is late meeting us, say because of traffic, our mind projects, you are late because you don't love me anymore. You have abandoned me and you are never going to come. Because of our insecurity and attachment, we become very unhappy. Then when they finally show up, we get angry with them. Why are you late? What have you been doing? And we don't really even give them a chance to explain. And he goes on to say, these things happen all the time in one form or another. We have all sorts of funny projections about ourselves, about other people, about situations in the world. The whole point is to understand that what we are projecting does not correspond to anything real. I'll probably be saying that quite a lot tonight, but that's one of the main points. So it was never there to start with. We've just made it up and we've projected it on. And then we get attached to it. So he goes on to say, when we understand that a person doesn't have this permanent set of good qualities, then we become open to seeing their actual good and bad qualities and understand that everyone has positive and negative points. So the expectation on the person has been reduced a little bit because we don't put them on a pedestal. We realise they've got negative points too. This is when you talk about attachment. Okay, so we understand that everyone has positive and negative points. We would neither exaggerate them nor minimise nor deny them. We would neither be clinging to who we think they are, nor would we become annoyed when they don't live up to our expectations. So we have to stop believing in our false projections, which are pure fantasy. Okay. He gives another example, another little story. We love somebody very much and are attached to them, but then they don't call us. Some time can pass and they still don't call us, and we get very upset. He says we need to analyse the projection here behind our getting upset. We need to ask, what is wrong with the way this appears to me? He says there are many things that are wrong, but one thing that is very common here is thinking that you are the most important thing in this person's life. And if they don't call, it's because they don't like you or whatever. That's not reality. People have lives. We are not the only ones in their life. They have other people in their life, many things that are happening to them, and many other people that they're interacting with. But it's our projections and our attachment to somebody, and that sort of behaviour, like puppy dogs that look at their owners in shops, and they're very codependent, not thinking clearly. All humans not thinking clearly. I don't know what's in a dog's mind. Okay, but what we really need to do, he says, is to reach the point where our mind stops projecting such scenarios, such storylines, because it prevents us from seeing reality clearly. So how do we do that? We understand that the object is empty of our projections. The object still exists, but it's empty of my projection. Berzing says that we need to familiarise ourselves over and over again with the idea that what we are projecting is not there, so that eventually our mind will stop projecting it. But we've got to realise that over and over again. We've got to think about it. Like I said, if there's any sort of like red flags and you get emotional about something, or you think you're feeling illogical, you can just sort of stop and start thinking about it and think, okay, I mean, we're never really going to work out what's real and what's a projection until we're enlightened, but we can still chip away at it. Some things are more obvious than others. And we can have a little think about it if we're getting into some sort of spiral. Or we notice a friend who's in a spiral, we can start helping them as well. But it does require a great deal of reflection. And it is difficult to identify the projections because we believe they're real. That's the kicker, really. We believe they're real. So basically, we try to deconstruct a fantasy. Okay. Here's a little example, I suppose, but sometimes when you say your version of things out loud to yourself, then you can start to see the unrealistic parts, because a lot of what goes on is in your mind, it's just talking in your head. But if you say it out loud, it makes such a difference, because you have to join the dots yourself, whereas if you're saying it in your mind, you just sort of jump illogically from one point to another. But if you say it out loud, you've got to actually join the dots yourself. So I think that helps too. And then you can see perhaps how unrealistic a situation is, or your interpretation. To sum up, the object of desire or attachment in reality is transient and impermanent and empty of your projections. Okay. Okay. Before we do the final meditation for tonight, an analytic meditation on emptiness and projections, I've just got one more footy example about projections and emptiness, really. So it's about loving your football team. Not so much the club, but the team, which is made up of players. People love their players. But the game has evolved from the early days. Now there is much more movement of players between teams. So your players move to other teams. And new players from the other enemy teams are picked to play in yours. So where is this team of yours? Okay, it's transient, it's impermanent. I remember when Daisy left Collingwood and followed Mick Malthouse to Carlton. I don't know where that Collingwood supporter is, but that was scandalous. Okay, now an analytic meditation based on Kathleen McDonald's book. So instead of a footy team, we're going to look at a table. So we want to loosen our firm grip on what we think reality is. We have a very firm grip on it. And our projections are the extra bit that we put on top of the reality. Okay. I haven't sort of like mentioned the word emptiness too much because people start thinking, oh, nothing is real. So with Buddhism, you always avoid the extremes, but things are there. I remember having one discussion with one guy. He's trying to tell me that everything was empty. And I said, I could punch you in the face. Would that be empty? I mean, it's like, it's a real thing. Not everything is empty, it exists. Things do exist. And he's talking, and then he looks at me and he goes, you're not going to punch me in the face, are you? I said, no, I could, but no, I won't. But yeah, so that's why I've sort of avoided using that word. But emptiness is empty of your projections. That object or the person is still there. Okay. So our motivation for this meditation could be to understand more fully the folly of my projections, or to loosen my firm ideas on what I think is the reality of a situation, or my motivation could be just to see how things unfold. All right, now again, sit straight, because if the body is upright, the energy channels within it will also be straight, and that facilitates the coming and goings of the energies in the channels, which in turn enables having a clear and stable meditation. So that's the importance of having that straight back. Okay, just a couple of deep breaths in and out. That's usually just the way I start a meditation, but I find it helps. Okay, so I will go through this, but so the next breath, have a deep breath in, hold it for just a bit comfortably, and then release. So breathe it in, hold it, then release. Just do that a couple of times. Relaxes me. I hope it relaxes you. Okay, so the emptiness of something, as I said before, is empty of your projections. So the aim is to have a total eradication from our mind of this false way of seeing things. Unfortunately, for the moment, we see things as fully and solidly existing in and of themselves from their own side, independent of anything else. Okay, so imagine a table, just any table. We see a solid, independent table standing there. It is so obviously a table that it seems ridiculous to even question it. Some people see that table as a place of gathering. Others see it as a place to eat. Students may see it as a desk. I know someone who sees it as a place to put all her laundry. In desperate times in the freezing cold, a wooden table could be seen as a source of fuel. So what exactly is the table? Where is its tableness located? What makes it a table? Is it the top of the table? Is it in one of the legs? When did it start to be a table? When does it stop being a table? If we take one leg away, is it still a table? What if we take 2 legs away? Is it still a table? If we take all the legs away, can we still call that a table? So if we've got the original table back, what if we take half the top off the table? Do you still call that a table? How many parts do we have to take away before it ceases to be a table? I might think, if there's no top, then I'm not calling it a table. Others may think there needs to be 2 legs minimum, or 3 that have to go before it's not a table anymore. But then, does a table need legs? It could have a flat piece of steel on a flat top rock. A large tree stump could have a tablecloth thrown over it, and all of a sudden, is it a table? But our table will get old, it will fade, and it will decay over time. The table is changing from moment to moment, but this is not what we see. We see a solid, unchanging table, and it is further embellished with our idea of what a table is used for. We experience not the unembellished reality of each thing and each person. So we don't see the raw reality of anything, but an exaggerated, filled out image of it, projected by our own mind. This mistake marks out our mental experiences. It is instinctive, it is pervasive, and it is the very root of all our problems. We are attracted to things and people that gratify and uphold our self-image, and we react with fear or animosity to whatever threatens us. We view the table and all people and things as definitely this way or that. Once we can eliminate the false qualities that we project onto things, we can see things more realistically and start to be happier. So we'll conclude the meditation by sincerely dedicating any positive energy and insight you may have gained to, the enlightenment of all beings, or to help everybody with realizations. So think that this meditation is just one step along the path to finally achieving direct insight into how things really exist and cutting the root of suffering and dissatisfaction. So just open your eyes when you're ready. Now, I forgot to say at the beginning of the meditation, it's based on Kathleen MacDonald's How to Meditate book, and that was that orange book that I brought in the first week. So it's basically her meditation. So, we've got time for questions. I have got a note here to ask you questions, but I might see if you've got any questions at all about anything that we've done, or any comments. My partner had some questions, so I didn't have time. This is why I write things down, because I scribble. So he asked me, what's the difference between projections? How do you know the difference between projections and what's real? And then we sort of covered that. I mean, I told him, well, you have to really be enlightened to know that for sure. But you could try to understand it intellectually, which is what we've done. Meditate. And also mindfulness. And we did touch on this actually. When you get emotional and dramatic, you can catch yourself and realise what's happening. Can't read my own writing. So be mindful of emotion, like rejection. So you identify emotion, like you don't like rejection, perhaps. And then see the projection behind that. And the projection could be that the person you think is totally reliable. You've projected that on that person, but they're not. And then you feel rejected. So you're not really seeing the reality of the situation because of that projection. What's real and what's not real. I saw 2 magpies a while back in the backyard, and it looked like they were friends, and I was thinking, oh, isn't that cute? You know, you've got the 2 magpies, they're in love, or I don't think I quite thought that, but, you know, they're friends and whatever, be nice, you know, to have a friend when you're a bird. And I don't know, I actually thought it'd be nice. But then, it was shocking, they started attacking each other with their beaks. So, and I ran out there to try to break it up. I didn't want a death in my backyard. So my storyline about their two friends, la-di-da-di-da, and they were just out to get each other. I don't think that's what friends usually do, but you never know. So an example of my projection definitely not reflecting reality. Okay. Oh yeah, intellectually understand and meditation to deepen that. Yep, I think I've covered that.
We actually always be aware that we have to question what we see.
I think so, yeah.
So it's just, yeah.
And you can be discerning about that and perhaps not believe something straight away.
Yeah.
You can think of it as a movie, perhaps.
I'm seeing you now as knowing a lot about Buddhism, and then maybe I write about it. No.
I have been coming for years listening to people, and I've done some retreats with Lama Zopa, but you learn something new all the time. I mean, in preparing for this, I was just reading things and thinking, wow, yeah, think because you know stuff, and then you read more things and it puts it more into perspective or deepens your understanding. Like you already know something, but then really knowing it, it takes a bit of time. Yeah.
Asking to watch it from different perspectives.
Sorry?
Is it also asking that you look from different...
I think so, definitely. It's like if there's a car accident, say, you get a lot of different witnesses to establish what's actually happened, because people will have different views on what actually happened. So if you get a lot of different perspectives, but you can do that in your own mind, you can cover things from different angles. Definitely, I think. But, yeah.
So the other words describe projection, the interpretation,
Yeah, a misinterpretation, yep. Yeah. Sort of, because you're misinterpreting something because you're projecting something, and you're projecting something because of your delusions that you've got in your mind. And the delusions are there because of... that's a whole more than 5 minutes. But so projection, other words for projecting. I think misinterpreting, misunderstanding. I don't know, I have to get my thesaurus and have a look. Yeah, they might, but I reckon if you dig deeper there'll be some differences. If you look at, say, a movie star, Meryl Streep or somebody, or Robert De Niro, someone might have... I don't want to put anything disparaging on Robert De Niro, but maybe a film star that somebody has heard negative things about in like some trashy magazine, and someone else who has just seen their movies and admires their artwork. So, well, Woody Allen would be an example. A lot of people don't like him anymore, but other people still admire his art, whereas some people won't even look at his films. So, but that's an extreme example. I mean, you still could pick Robert De Niro, and people could have the same projection, but when you dig deeper, some people might think, oh, he's more this or more that than the other person.
How to help someone who doesn't understand. He has a perception or attachment into he's not worthy if he's not with somebody, if he doesn't have the love, the connection with a girlfriend, with that person. And he's been dealing with this since he broke up, and he thought he made a mistake because at least he had that, even though I used to say to him, you have to remember when you make that decision, what was the negative of you making that decision. Don't idolize it, that it was this great relationship because it was...
And it's not fair on the girl as well.
It wasn't fair because you're putting all this protection on her to keep motivating you, to keep being attracted to her, which is not. And now it's just building up yourself, knowing yourself, and putting all that into you, or instead of just trying to chase or find that other relationship.
No, I think that's the key, what you said there. He's got to learn to love himself and be with himself. And I firmly believe that's how you find somebody. If you're happy with yourself, other people will somehow realise that, will feel that, and they'll be more attracted to you if you're happy with yourself. And he can maybe try that sending yourself love meditation, like thinking of you or someone or the pet and someone that he really likes, and those feelings he has for them, not just functional feelings but warm feelings for somebody, and then wishing that he has them, sending himself those vibes or those feelings.
And maybe also that when you have that projection into a relationship, that you have to have that to be filled or to be
Fulfilled.
fulfilled or happy or content. That if you're not, then you're not enjoying life. Or you're not.
He has to break that link between that attachment, that link between happiness and a relationship. Yeah, and also you can tell him that it's transient. This being single is transient. It's impermanent. Things will change, but you shouldn't force it. But things will change. So I think he might be thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a permanent state of affairs. But tell him that things do change and give him examples of how things change. And also things change, and to love himself and to be... I know it's easy to say, but I think certainly the meditation of him sending himself love will help. But I know what it's like. I mean, you sort of think, oh yeah, I know what I should do and I should be happy in myself, but I want to have a girlfriend, you know, and everything else is out the window. So I think it's got to be little by little, even just the meditation, and even just playing with his own rules, you know, his own idea, and just saying, look, girls will be more attracted to you if you're happier within yourself. Because that's what he wants. So, okay. Oops, it's 9. Before we finish, I think there'll be tea. You can have tea in the dining room, and also I'm pretty sure there's cake. But there's an evening meal service now here, Cafe Bliss. I don't know if anyone's been to Cafe Bliss here, but they're doing evening meal services in the TI dining room on Monday to Wednesdays. So some people come before teachings, and I'm glad there's excitement. So yeah, and so the menus, if you go on their website, the menus there, it's just normal, they're normal stuff. So yeah, Monday to Wednesday, 5:30 to 8 p.m. And also a reminder that on Wednesday mornings there are guided meditations here, just for half an hour, purely meditations, and they go through different types of meditations like that. There's about 10, but you can drop in any time, and they just cycle through them. And they're guided meditations, and they go to Cafe Bliss after, optionally. Homework. With your meditations, and if you've sort of fallen off the wagon a little bit, just try again. Have a nice space, find a time that suits you, and even if it's just for 1 minute or 3 breaths. And the extra homework is to add a motivation to your meditation. Why are you sitting there? If you found some benefit from meditating, that could be your motivation. And if you're still trying to just say, I want to meditate because I want to have a calm and clear mind, that's usually what I do. I sit down and say, my motivation is to have a calm and clear mind for the benefit of others and benefit for myself. Sorry, I will let you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah, stay in the dining room. Yep. And next week will be equanimity. So non-attachment would mean that you neither cling to experience nor reject it. You don't reject feeling it, but you don't fixate on it. But we'll look more at equanimity next week. Thank you.